What's up guys, Nick here from Nick's Taxes, and in today's video I brought in one of my main men, Travis Flint, to the video. In a previous video I made, I talked about some budgeting basics, and in today's video we're going to dive a little bit deeper into budgeting, and I thought it'd be a great idea to bring along someone who does a great job balancing his budget. Travis and I went to school together and graduated at the same time. He did such a good job balancing his budget that he was one of the first of my friends to buy a house by himself, and being in the greater Toronto area, that's no small feat. And I know that he continues to be diligent with balancing his budget, so I thought it would be a great idea to introduce Travis to the channel and talk about his insights when it comes to budgeting. So Travis, nice to have you.
Awesome, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, take it away.
All right, so this is going to be 5 tips for budgeting for new adults or students, or it could be anyone really. As Nick said, I've had some success out of school and I've done a really good job learning how to budget, figuring out tips for budgeting, and I want to try and pass that knowledge on to you because it's really not that hard if you put the work in. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So step 1 is being realistic and coming up with realistic goals. To me, this is the most important step, because if you're not being realistic, you're never going to achieve your goals. So the first thing, you want to make sure you're living within your means. So you want to be spending less than you're making. If you're making $1,000, you don't want to be spending $1,500, because then you're not living within your means and you're going to be essentially losing money each month. So come up with something realistic. Another thing, you want to make sure you're breaking it down as much as you can. You want to make sure you have something to allocate each dollar to. So if you're coming up with rent, insurance, food, you want to make sure you're able to allocate every dollar you spend to something. You don't want something to just going nowhere.
And the other thing about allocating your money, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are finding expenses to put your money towards. It's actually beneficial if you don't have 100% of your income going towards expenses, but that leftover amount gets put towards saving or investing. Like we talked about in our financial pillars, you want to be able to cover your expenses, not go in debt, and then have some leftover to actually save for whatever comes our way.
That leads us into my next step, which is step 2. Come up with a system to document every purchase you make. So there are a lot of different ways you can document your spending. Me personally, my big one is Excel. I love Excel. I think it's the greatest program. I document it in there. I have formulas set up to make it as simple as I can for me, but that's not the only way you can do it. You can be as simple as having a journal and writing everything down there. Me personally, I prefer Excel.
There's apps out there now that actually can do this for you as well.
There you go. I didn't even know that, but there's tons of different things you can do. Another really big piece regarding documenting your spending is keep your receipts. If you keep every receipt you get, then you'll see exactly how much money you're spending. And I tell you, it's gonna be eye-opening.
Right. That ties into you being realistic.
Right. And to go back to my school days, nobody liked candy and energy drinks more than me, and I spent way too much on it during university. And had I been tracking this, it would have been a lot easier to acknowledge the fact that I'm spending a lot that I probably didn't need to spend. And you know, you want to be able to live, and you know, university students have it rough, but it's important. If saving is your goal, you want to make sure you're tracking this. Receipts are good for a number of reasons, but the fact that you'll be able to see exactly how much you're spending, that's the important key here.
Right, now on to step number 3.
All right, so this one is a little different, but you want to make sure that you have, let's call it a safety stock, or even just having some cash on hand that you don't include in your income that you can use at any time, and this will allow you to have some fun. So for example, if I want to go to see a movie but I don't want to throw it into my budget, If I know I have $30 cash laying around, I can take that $30 and use it for a fun night out and not have to worry about it impacting my budget.
This allows you to have fun when an opportunity comes up that you haven't actually planned for.
Right.
Because I think it's hard to almost envision exactly how your month or week or whatever is going to look because you never know when someone's going to message you or you have the need to want to go out and have some fun or do something with your buddies, right?
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, you never know what's going to come up if you have to make a car payment or something. You break a lamp, you need to buy a lamp and you don't want to throw it in your budget. There's a lot of stuff that comes up naturally that it's hard to budget for. So this will allow you to have some flexibility while still being true to your budget.
That's awesome. I like that. It's a great way to save. In my video, I talked about having an emergency fund. So in my case, we would have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, and these type of things that popped up, like breaking a lamp or whatnot, would come out of that emergency fund. This is another alternative way to have that in your budget and not hurt your current budget.
Yeah, and another thing you could do is you could actually build it into your budget. So me personally, I have a category that's called Other, and this will be anything that doesn't classify as a food bill or anything else that comes up. So, for example, if I want to go get a pizza and I don't want to throw it into my grocery bill, I'll throw it into my Other category. Or I don't have a lot of subscriptions that I pay for, so I throw my Spotify subscription in there. And again, it's just a way to stay true to your budget, but you're still allowing yourself to have fun because you don't want to be house poor or you don't want to be having no life because that's no fun at all. Mm-hmm. It's really important.
No one likes a stickler.
Nobody does like a stickler. So it's really important to remember these things. And if you're allowing yourself to have more fun, you're more likely to stick to your budget. All right. So we've made our budget, we've come up with our goals, now it's time to see it in action. Step 4 is tracking your success. At the end of each month, you want to be able to track how you're doing. Now, you do this for a couple of reasons. The first reason is to see A, are our goals realistic, and B, how are we doing? So even if you're exceptional at budgeting, there is a chance that you're going to go over budget, and that's okay. That's why we have the budget to track our spending. And at the end of each month, we want to be able to see, is this a normal occurrence or is this something that, I spent an extra couple bucks where I shouldn't have? And by doing this, you're allowing yourself to adjust for future months.
I think that also goes into, again, being realistic. Once you kind of have that budget in place, and you spend a couple months trying to live to that budget, if you're not able to hit those goals, you want to go back to step 1, being realistic, and adjust that budget to more fit the lifestyle that is more ideal for you.
Yeah, exactly. So another thing that could happen is if something else comes up and I have a work phone, but I have to get rid of the work phone and I need to get my own that I'm going to have to start paying for. This is something that you need to add to your budget. And if you're adding a phone bill to your budget, are you going to subtract from something else or is it just an addition you're making? Mm-hmm. And again, this happens and it's important to be able to adapt as you go. So I'm going to go over a live demonstration of how I use my budget. Again, it's super simple, but no word of lie, it's life-changing. It allowed me to buy a house, it allowed me to buy a new car, and it's super simple. Anyone can do it, so I want to share that with you guys.
Let's dive right into it.
So I'm going to go over a live demonstration of the budget that I use. So like I mentioned, I use Excel. I personally love the fact that you can input all your formulas and just copy and paste, which is very simple but very useful. So a couple things you want to keep in mind you want to be able to track your income. So let's say you get paid bi-weekly every other Friday. I already have it all documented. These are all the Fridays of the month. Let's say I got paid today and I got paid $1,500. That's added to my budget, and now I know how much income's coming in. So now coming over to this section, this has all my allocations. So I have my mortgage, I have my insurance, utilities, gas, and everything else that I would need for the month. And as you can see here, here's my other section, and this would classify it as my fund spending or stuff that comes up that you can't really predict. So if I'm recording my transactions, I'll have it where I'm spending, the date I spent it, and how much. So if this is my mortgage payment, I want to add it over here. And all you have to do is copy the cell, and now it's in my budget. So this category here is what I've spent for the month. This is what I've budgeted for the month. And this will show me whether I'm under or over budget. And I've already color coded it. So if it's under budget, it's going to be green. If it's over budget, it's going to be red. And what I also like to do is copy the category so I can just see what the category is as I'm looking at the transaction. So if I go grocery shopping, I spend $56. I want to add that to my grocery bill. Again, you just copy the cell, and now it's there. Again, I've spent $56. I've budgeted $300, meaning I have $244 left. And again, just to make it simple, we're color coding it. Again, if I'm spending $50 in gas, you're adding it to the gas section. And again, if you go to Shoppers, let's say I'm hankering for a chocolate bar and a pop, but again, I don't think it classifies as a grocery. I will classify that as my other section. So I'm gonna say it's $5.50 for the two. You add it here, and that's my fund spending. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. And let's say my second mortgage payment of the month, for whatever reason, whether it's land taxes or whatever, but the payment actually increased, let's say. So let's say instead of the $795, it turns into $825. So I want to make sure I'm being true to my budget. And again, if I have to adjust this at year end for the next year, then I can do it. But I want to make sure I'm staying true to the 2020 budget. So I'm adding this to my budget. So now it shows that I am over budget now by $30. And again, this is going to happen. It's nothing to freak out about, but you want to be honest with it, because at year end you're going to make your adjustments, and then you're not going to be over budget for next year.
I think this flows nicely into step number 5, which is reviewing and reflecting on your budget at the end of each year.
Yeah, so it's really important to be able to review and reflect at the end of the year, because this is going to show you how well you're sticking to your budget and whether or not you're being realistic with it. So if you're under by $3,000, that's great, but it also means that maybe you're giving yourself too much leeway. And on the contrary, if you're over by $3,000, maybe you're being too restrictive on it and you need to loosen it up a bit. And another thing you want to make sure you're doing is you want to celebrate your successes, because if you are under budget by, let's say, $500, that means you're doing a really good job of sticking to what your plan was. A budget is a plan, and if you're sticking to it, then you're in great shape. Celebrate your successes. If you have a surplus at the end, go have some fun. Use 100 of that and go on a date or go to a Jays game or anything. And then the rest of that, put in your savings. And again, be proud of it because it's something you should be proud of.
Very good. Yeah, I think the important thing is just to start. And once you kind of start, that takes a lot of work and kind of adjusting to see what works best for you. But once you kind of get this going, it's easy to make some minor changes along the way. And then it's right now for you, it's just kind of an easy thing to make tweaks along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? I mean, getting started is half the battle. Once you have all the groundwork laid, once you come up with your plan, that's your plan for the future. You know, if that's something that works for you, you can use that for the rest of your life. And for me, I have all my Excel documents already laid out, and I just change it up each year, but I use the same program,
right.
The same template, and it's super easy. Once you stick to it, it becomes a lot easier to actually stick with, and you're aware of it. Like, I can't believe how much money I spent in university without even acknowledging it. So it's really important to just come up with a plan, and again, starting's half the battle.
Yeah.
So,
well, that was your 5 tips. Thanks so much for having us or for coming on the channel.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it. If you guys got value out of what Travis shared today, please give a thumbs up and let us know in the comments below what you thought. Maybe share some of your budgeting tips, or if you'd like to have Travis back for another video, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have you back, though. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, again, I'm happy to do it.
And so yeah, this is Travis. I'm going to give his details right here for you to follow him on the gram if you'd so choose. And yeah, I'm Nick. Here's my details here. And thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we love you. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.
Take care, guys.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Nice
stuck
job.
the landing.
Good job.